I wanna be a Scottish cowboy, wanna herd them heeling coos, riding over the heather in all kinds of weather, just singing them good old Scottish blues. I'll be riding up high in me saddle, all the lassies' hearts they're gonna will, for they're Caledonian cowboys in my leather chaps and kilts. When that sun sets over Ben Nevis, to the pub will be a while. Well, we'll be taking turns toasting Robbie Burns. Each time we wreck good Willie Wah.
You're listening to Mr. Radio, and I'm your host, Marshall. Kip Ferguson is a singer of traditional songs and writes and performs original acoustic music as a member of the duo Coyote Blue. He lives in New Hampshire, and together with longtime musical collaborators and friends Kevin Myers and Sandy LaFleur, is a founder of the Celtic Camping Ceilidh. Kevin Myers was the duty piper for all the Celtic Camping Ceilidhs, and Sandy LaFleur was the session mum and one of the original organizers for the group the Rakes of Milford. Welcome to the show, folks.
Thank you.
How you doing? Hey. Howdy.
For listeners not familiar with the term, what is a ceilidh?
Ceilidh is a Gaelic word, and it means generally in evenings gathering where there'll be song, dance, stories, adult beverages. It's a good time all around.
For listeners who are not privy to the video of this, that was Kevin Myers responding to my question. Kevin, I believe you were the piper for all of these festivities. What did that entail?
Well, we had a number of ceremonies to, such as parading the magical stone for the stone soup, and it would be my job to parade the crowd, everybody at the event to the sacred pot to deposit the sacred stone for the stone soup. Oh Jesus! It would there would be events occurring, such as a mock Highland Bents, which I had to pipe for, and there were a lot of these sort of things, to punctuate the evening. I hope that phone in the background wasn't a problem.
Well, it didn't sound like a pipe to me.
What kind of pipes are there?
Most people think of only one kind of pipes, which is to say the Highland Pipes. But the reality is there's about 250 pipes, different pipes from the Atlantic Rim to the Mideast. And I would play, for the ceremonial things, I would play the great pipes, which are, which is what everybody's familiar with, the Scottish great pipes. And but in session, I played the Irish pipes as well, and whistles and flutes and things like that too.
When did you first start playing the pipes?
Oh, almost 40 years ago. Now, I fell in love with them, but it was a while before I took them up. Way back when, it was very hard. The pipes had almost died out, and there weren't many people around. There were plenty of people around doing the Highland Pipes, but still, for someone who just wanted to learn to play for their own enjoyment, it was not an entirely easy thing to do. But I got the bug. I think I have a bump on my DNA spiral, which makes me love pipes. And they just all attract me. The Scottish small pipes, Scottish great pipes, Breton pipes. It doesn't matter. I love them all. I've restricted myself to just playing two because we only have so much time in life
What's
to
the
get things
history
done.
of the?
What is the history of pipes? How old are they?
Well, I think the oldest piper that the archaeologists have dug up comes from the Middle East in one of the very first civilizations, spelled U-R, I assume that's the way it's pronounced, and that goes back 5,000 years. They dug up the remains of a piper there who was wearing a kilt, kilt-like object, a bonnet. There were feathers in the bonnet, and had a little bag at the waist, just like a modern piper. So it's a very long tradition, and the Romans probably carried pipes into areas where maybe they weren't seen. We don't know for sure because there's no records, mostly before the Romans. But the Roman army used pipes for their religious ceremonies. So wherever the Roman army went, there were pipes, and we know that there were pipes played in ancient Rome. There are actually laws governing them. So they've been around a long time. So anything Roman is over 2,000 years ago. But it's likely that the pipes would have grown up anywhere in the world on their own. I mean, if you just think about a reeded instrument, people were creating them in ancient times in every culture. It arose, I'm sure, spontaneously in every culture in that area that I mentioned.
Steve, I have a question for you while you're listening to the pipes here at the Camping Ceilidh. For listeners who are not familiar with the term, what is a ceilidh?
Well, a ceilidh is basically a great party. It's a bunch of people who like to get together, play musical instruments, usually play tunes and songs that people know. So it's participatory, and there might be a little drinking going on during some of these. Sometimes people get up and dance. Occasionally there will be someone singing Shanos, which is a solo type of song, and it's just a good party. They could be found on any continent at any time all over the world because the music has grown so popular. People just love to get together and play Celtic music.
Sandy, you were one of the original founders of the Camping Ceilidh weekend, and you were also part of the Rakes, Rogues, and Rascals. What were or are the Rakes, Rogues, and Rascals?
Well, the Rakes, Rogues, and Rascals consisted of Kevin and Steve and I, and so we were the RRR, proud sponsors of the CCC, the Celtic Camping Ceilidh. And I was often asked which was I, the Rake, the Rogue, or the Rascal, and we all took turns. So it was very, very democratic. But we got together, we were already playing music together, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to have an entire weekend of this? And I actually have in front of me a big binder of photos and notes and such. And we got together at, I believe it was at Kevin's house. Yes.
I think we had our first official business meeting at my house, but I think the idea may have popped up at Margarita's, a Mexican place, just hop, skip, and a jump from my house.
That is absolutely, I just see that now. Yes, absolutely correct. May 26th, 1999, Margarita's restaurant, meeting called to disorder. sometime around 7:45. And we were aware of the fact that we would really need to keep our focus and not overdo the drinking. So we did come up with an agenda, and there's 8 items on the agenda. Every other one is a round of drinks, and that was to keep the drinking down.
Right. Otherwise, they'd be drinking every time.
Right. So I have, this is the agenda and the official minutes of the first meeting of the RRR when we planned the first CCC.
Valuable document.
In 4-color pen?
Well, so the notes were taken in Kevin's 4-color pen,
Right.
and I don't seem to have the actual handwriting, but I do notice here that when I transcribed the handwriting into the computer, I did use colored ink to delineate the different colors of Kevin's pen of the original taking of the minutes.
From your first description of the meeting that you had to start this organization, I can understand the term rascals and I can understand the term rogue, but what is a rake?
So this has nothing to do with garden implements. I'll just say that to begin with. But a rake is maybe a slightly unruly person, kind of, shady in character, but to an extent. We never tried to take any of this to extremes, but a rake was just kind of a rascally person, a roguey person, a person who would like to have fun, and we were all of that.
Someone with a twinkle in their eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were called the session mum. What is that?
Well, the session, because we were having monthly sessions about this time, was just a monthly gathering. We used to meet at different places in Milford initially, for many years actually, and the sessions went on for over 20 years, and we're kind of in hiatus now with the pandemic. But so I was the one who sent the emails out to everyone and just let people know when we were getting together to meet. And I would be generally the one at the session where if we sat in a circle and if someone had played a tune, I would prompt the next person that it was their turn, to kind of keep things moving and to keep things, very democratic, so everyone had a chance to participate, and just kind of keep things moving. I was also the contact person. It came to be when someone decided they wanted to hire us for some unforeseen reason. I would be the person that would get a phone call or an email, and we ended up getting actually quite a number of gigs as a group over the years, particularly around St. Patrick's Day.
And Steve, I believe that during these camping weekends, Celtic camping weekends, you were a sort of an MC. What exactly happens during the weekend? You mentioned some things before, but can you elaborate?
Well, yeah, it's there was a whole kind of a rhythm to the weekend. We'd get together on Friday night. We'd set up the Great Hall, and that was the big pavilion where we had our meals and our gatherings. And then we'd generally the kegs would already be on board. There'd be 3, 2 of beer and 1 of root beer for the children. So we didn't want to leave them out. If they're going to learn to be good rakes, rogues, and rascals, they need to be able to go up to the keg and pour a frosty mug. And then on Saturday, we might go to breakfast over at Parker's Maple Barn across the street, for as many as will. We'd breakfast for 20. And then we'd go back and we'd have games. We like to do a lot of things that people could participate in. That was the main theme, whether it was music, dancing. We had games like the scone toss, and you've seen the cabers, the big poles that they do up at the Scottish Highland Games. We had a caber toss using pool. What do they call those? A little
pool noodles.
The
Pool
noodles.
noodles.
Pool noodle. So you had to flip the pool noodle. So that was one of the games, all done in fun, not really serious competition. The occasional bocce game might have broken out here and there. There was a puppet show one year, I think in particular. Singing, telling stories. That was the afternoon. And then we'd have the great feast on Saturday night.
I believe there was another game when I spoke to you earlier, the Bony Knees. What was that?
Bonnie knees.
Oh, the Bonnie Knees. Sorry.
Bonnie knees.
Oh, the Bonnie knees. Sorry.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes. There was
Anyone with bony knees was out. They couldn't make it.
You could have bony knees, but it wouldn't get you a good score, usually.
Right.
I always took a little whiskey and put it on my knees so that the judges, now the judges were all the ladies, they would kneel on the grass there and they'd be blindfolded with their consent, of course. And then the men who were wearing kilts, of course, would walk up, and each lady would reach forward and attempt to ascertain the quality of this gentleman by his knees, and by only his knees. Fingers were not allowed to go up or down, go for the knees. And so then they would reach behind their back and give a score, and this was all kept by a scorekeeper. And then the ladies would go off and discuss it at the end. All the men would have a term going through, and then they would, at dinner, after the dinner, they would announce the winner, along with all the other games. There would be ribbons and a little award ceremony. But that was great fun. The men were not blindfolded, so we may have had the better time of it. But I don't know, Sandy. I think some of the ladies were having a good time, from what I could tell.
Yeah. As one of the judges, I will say I definitely enjoyed the judging. We did have one woman who we had to disqualify as a judge because she was just too overwhelmed. And upon trying to ascertain the first gentleman's knee worthiness, she became totally undone and rolled backwards in hysterical laughter. And we had to remove her from the judging line because it was just too traumatic for the gentleman to be judged that way. So we got her out of there right away, and we gave her another job to do. It was my daughter, who was probably 12 or 13 at the time, who would go behind and write down the numbers that each of the judges gave. So she was the scorekeeper, and she was also the soup supervisor of the stone soup. Yeah.
So when you were not judging these contests, you were also in charge of the feasting. What was involved in that?
Well, so the feasting, it started with the stone soup. We were starting the stone soup, and to do that, we had the propane burner. It's like a lobster pot cooker.
Wait, I have to stop you for a second. Stone soup.
Yeah. I'm going to tell.
Stone soup. What is stone soup?
Well, there is for your listeners there, they can actually do some looking up on this, but there is a story, a fable about stone soup that starts with a poor peasant starting a soup with nothing but a pot of hot water and a stone. And by the by, the villagers come and add things to the soup. And so we kind of created that for the stone soup supper, which was Saturday night. We were, being the RRR at the CCC, and I will say that we had an overseeing organization, the AAA, the Alliterative Acronym Association. We were fond of, I will admit, of acronyms and alliteration. So we also had a super soup supervisor, which was my daughter. Now Tracy's job was to round up all of the vegetables and such, and we would start first, of course, as Kevin said, with the piping and the processing. We would have a propane heat cooker, and on top of that was a keg, a big stainless steel beer keg, empty except for water. At the top had been cut off, so you could use it as a cooking vessel. And we had the sacred stone, which we kept for year to year, which I still have. And we would all all gather around after processing with our vegetables around the pot, and we would drop the stone. I would drop the stone in the water, and we would all look to see if the stone was going to float or sink, because if it sunk, it bode very well for the soup. I'm happy to report
Yeah, it's not good when they don't sing.
Yeah. So I'm happy to report that every single time we did this, without fail, that stone went right to the bottom without delay. So we had wonderful soup every year. And then Tracy, my daughter Tracy, would start putting in the vegetables and the offerings that people had brought to the soup. And it would simmer for several hours and become wonderful smelling. And that was the main course of the evening's banquet.
I have a question for Kevin now. When you weren't watching this stone sinking to the bottom and you were playing your pipes, what are you doing nowadays? Are you getting pipe playing gigs, or what's happened with that?
Well, I don't play the Scottish Highland Pipes much anymore, probably because, certainly because COVID had stopped any of that. I haven't played in a musical session for, since COVID. Just the week before St. Patrick's Day last year, everything shut down here in New England. I still play my Irish pipes and whistles and flutes to keep myself going. And last summer, I used to get together with two friends from the session at the Great Brook State Park in Carlisle, Massachusetts. They have a pavilion there, and we would stay more than socially distant, over 6 feet apart, and we wore masks, and we would play for a couple hours once a week, which was nice, and that was good. And occasionally I would get together with my son to give him pipe lessons because he's taken up the pipes now. And that's pretty much what I do. I keep thinking I need to get back to the Highland Pipes for the ceremonial value there, but always other things always seem to get in the way, and just keeping up the Irish pipes. I played 2 hours yesterday, and then I was pretty much piped out. So, yeah, I'm still playing.
And Steve, what are you doing during this time when you can't have an MC session or Ceilidh session?
Yeah, and I haven't been able to get together with my buddy Richard either with our duo, but we did try it twice. Because we were singing, we had to distance our chairs. We must have been 15 feet apart. And we brought our little amps out, and he sat near my amp and I sat near his amp, and we tried to get a balance out of that, but it was pretty kludgy. It didn't really work. I only did one gig in the summer, and that was sitting on the porch out in Temple at the Birchwood Inn. And I was the only one on the porch, and everybody else was out on the lawn, socially distanced with tables between them and all that. And I did a solo thing up there one night as a benefit for them. But other than that, writing. I've got probably 4 or 5 new songs that I've written. My buddy Richard's doing the same. So when we get back together again, we can't wait to get back up on the horse and get out and play music, support all these venues that that are such a cherished institution up here around where we live. So I'm looking forward to that. Soon come.
Sandy, what about you? You're also involved in other things besides watching the stone drop down to the bottom of the pot.
Right. So I've been involved with the Milford Contra Dance for a long time as an organizer and a caller. And that, of course, is on hiatus. Something about, being in a room where you're touching everyone's hands and in someone else's arms every 35 seconds is not conducive to stopping the spread of a virus. So we're not doing that right now, but I am still playing. My instrument of choice is the Appalachian dulcimer, which I have right here. This is a 6-string Appalachian dulcimer. And one of the reasons I was drawn to this instrument, much like Kevin to the pipes, is that it has a drone. And I find that very centering and very grounding. I've done a fair amount of playing at bedside for people who are in distress or are dying at end of life, and looking to do more of that kind of work. I also teach Appalachian dulcimer. I was teaching out of my home and at festivals before the pandemic, and now I'm still teaching at home, but I'm using Zoom, and I have a second camera to show my hands, and teaching at a festival in a couple of weeks, and six workshops all on Zoom. So
I was wondering if we could give you a few seconds to set up your microphone so that we could hear what the dulcimer sounds like.
I'm going to turn on original sound. It's going to sound a lot better.
Was there a name for that piece?
That is an O'Carolyn piece. Plank Stefani Power, am I correct? No.
No.
Shebeg Shamor.
There it is.
Shebeg Shamor. And I just played 1A and 1B. It's typically played 2A parts and 2B parts.
A few minutes left. What are the chances that we're going to have a virtual Camping Ceilidh someday soon?
I'm kind of hoping that I actually have another one in person. And
I agree. I think it's worth waiting for, because it's just so special to be with good friends and good musicians and spend that time. You know, I think Zoom is great for what it gives us today, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow and even better things.
I agree. In person, much better.
It really needs to be experienced.
Well, it certainly was nice to have good friends to talk to on this show, and I'm so happy that you were all able to take the time to speak with me, and I hope to hear from you soon and perhaps attend one of your Camping Ceilidhs very soon.
We would love to have you here, and we'll give our official RRR toast. Here's to us, was like us, damn
you.
And they're all D.
Thank you, Marshall.
I want to ride across them highlands from Glencoe to Old Ben Lord. Though it could be detrimental to be riding regimental, you might tend to get a little saddle sore. But I'll wear my tartan so proudly, eating me haggis and drink me tea. Oh, and gaily I will whistle as I plod on through that thistle, out where the skies, they're cloudy all the day. Where the skies, they are cloudy all day.
You've been listening to Mr. Radio, and I'm your host, Marshall. This program was written and produced by Marshall. Our theme music today was played by Coyote Blue. Mr. Radio is available wherever you get your podcasts, including iTunes and Spotify. Subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. And don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Mr. Radio.
In me saddle, all the lassies' hearts, they're gonna will. Oh, they're Caledonian cowboys in my leather chaps and kill. When that sun sets over Ben Nevis, to the pub will be a while. Well, we'll be taking turns toasting Robbie Burns. Each time we wreck good Willie Wah. I'll be murdering pints of Guinness, chase 'em down with a single malt. Oh, my wife's been lately thinking
You're doing too much drinking!
but I swear to her it's really not my fault, and this is why. I say, honey, I'm trying to be a Scottish cowboy. Wanna herd them mealing coos, riding over the heather in all kinds of weather, just singing them good old Scottish blues. I'll be riding up high in me saddle. All the lassies' hearts they're gonna will. Oh, they're Caledonian cowboys in my leather chaps and kilts. Take it away. They should be stolen by some outlaws, rough and tough. Well, I'll jump into my saddle and I'll ride off into battle, chasing them on a pony named Macduff.
Hey, I'm Macduff.
When I rounded up all of them rustlers, and at last the day is won, all the town folk will demand,
who was that kilted man?
As I ride away into the setting sun, here's what they'll say. They'll say, there goes that Scottish cowboy, wants to herd them healing coos, riding over the heather in all kinds of weather, just singing them good Scottish blues. He'll be riding up high in his saddle. All the lassies' hearts they're gonna will. Oh, they're Caledonian cowboys in my leather chaps and kilts. Oh, they're Caledonian cowboys in my leather chaps and kilts. Get along, little coos.